This program brought to you by ACS. Think ahead, create the future, change the world. This is Swipe on Your Money.
Hello, I'm James Daggar-Nickson. Welcome to Swipe, the show designed to keep you up to date with all the latest and greatest trends and products in tech. Coming up,
I want you to imagine on top of the skyscrapers in the cities, right by the train stations, from the airports, on the top of the buildings, skyports, where these vertical takeoff and landing aircraft will be able to pick you up, you hit a button and it'll fly you to where you want to go.
oh yes, Uber taking it to the skies, and in just a few short minutes you'll find out how close Australia is to landing this transport of the future. Plus, a look at some of the latest tech gadgets, including this cute little guy, and sure to make every science fiction lover get just a little bit excited. But first, it's space time. Mars has a new robotic resident after it travelled more than 480 million kilometres from its home on Earth. It's NASA's first successful landing on the red planet since 2012 and the 8th successful landing in human history. During its 2-year mission, InSight will study the deep interior of Mars, giving us a greater understanding of life, if any, beyond Earth.
After a 6-month journey, the last few minutes were the most anxious for mission control. And then came that almighty sigh of relief.
Touchdown confirmed.
NASA's InSight spacecraft had made it safely to the surface of the red planet. The celebrations for a mission that will allow us to see the interior of Mars for the first time. And the InSight lander itself celebrating by beaming back its first image of its new home.
There it is. Wow, right.
It was a spectacular success, the last moments of which saw the spacecraft slowing from 12,000 miles an hour to just 5 in 6 minutes. No one certain that the hoped-for soft landing would materialize.
As we go through these 7 minutes of terror, kind of increasing the likelihood of humanity to actually land on Mars with this amazing vehicle that is out there ready to land, that will again transform our knowledge of this amazing planet that's right next to us.
It all means the real work can now begin, probing deep under the surface of Mars. Scientists hope to tell us how it and the solar system was formed. Among the instruments on board, a tiny seismometer made by engineers at Imperial College in London to detect quakes on Mars. The big question, whether the planet once had the sort of magnetic field that could have helped sustain early life, and if it did, where it went.
We know that Mars used to have a magnetosphere that protected it from radiation in deep space. We know that Mars used to have a very large ocean in the northern hemisphere. In fact, about 3/4 of the northern hemisphere was covered by ocean, and we know that Mars used to have a very thick atmosphere. Mars was a habitable planet about 3 billion years ago, and then something happened, and now it is desolate. And we're trying to understand what caused that to happen.
NASA already knows much about whether Mars could have supported life in its past. InSight will spend 2 years digging deeper into the secrets buried within our planet's nearest neighbour.
Well, who else has been stuck in traffic and dreamt about having a tank or a monster truck to just roll over the top of everyone to get where you want to go? Well, fortunately, one company is putting their mind and money to avoiding congestion. Uber has, well, rejected the idea of heavily armoured vehicles and instead looked to the skies. The ride-sharing company is preparing to launch Uber Air, a vertical takeoff and landing craft that will ferry passengers above cities. Sydney and Melbourne are being considered as a possible testing city. Well, for more, I spoke to Uber Australia and New Zealand General Manager Susan Anderson. Susan Anderson, really appreciate you joining us today. A very exciting topic to be talking about, Uber Air. Look, just to start with, just explain what Uber Air is.
Uber Air is one of the most exciting parts of my job at the moment, James. Our vision for Uber Air is fully on demand, totally electric, vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. I want you to imagine on top of the skyscrapers in the cities, right by the train stations, from the airports, on the top of the buildings, skyports, where these vertical takeoff and landing aircraft will be able to pick you up, you hit a button and it'll fly you to where you want to go. So you live on the Central Coast just in New South Wales and commute into the Sydney CBD in 8 minutes. Or doing that journey from Melbourne Airport into the CBD down in close to 5. I mean, that's the level of time saving that these vehicles can bring.
It sounds great, but I mean, how realistic do you think it actually is? People at home, like me, might be thinking, well, it just sounds like the Jetsons. It sounds like something I used to read about in sci-fi mags when I was a kid.
It is real. We have had the Uber Air team in Australia twice, talking to the Civil Aviation Safety Authority about what we would need from the partnerships there, talking to our governments about whether they're interested in giving this a go. We have actual NASA scientists working in Uber developing this, and it's based on the propeller technology, electric batteries, and we're working with a number of manufacturers from a subsidiary of Boeing and Bell in order to be able to build versions of this. So it's real and it's near.
So when are we likely to see Uber Air actually become a reality? My understanding is 2023. You've got some testing cities for 2020. I mean, that's not far away.
It's not far away at all. Uber's planning to test this in 3 cities starting in 2020. We've confirmed Dallas, confirmed LA, and they're looking for a 3rd city. And Sydney and Melbourne is on that shortlist.
How likely? I mean, what do we need to do to get it?
Already, we've got great climate here. That helps a lot when you're testing an aerial vehicle. We've also got great governments and really progressive regimes, and most importantly, a customer base and people who are innovative and excited about using this type of technology. So we're putting our best foot forward. I know that I'm working hard on it. It's quite fun to have flying cars on your to-do list. But we'll find out next year, but we're in for a good shot.
You mentioned regulation. I imagine a complex but incredibly important element of getting Uber Air off the ground. Excuse the pun. But what is happening behind the scenes as far as talking, if you like, with the regulators is concerned?
So safety is at the core of what we do here. We know that for this to be something that customers want to use and be comfortable with it flying over their towns and cities, it has to be safe. So starting with the vehicle, they're being built with safety in mind. Unlike a helicopter, the vehicles will have multiple propeller points, which means no one single point of failure. Also, the fact they're based on electric and a battery makes them safer. They don't have the complexity that comes with motors and the fuel that goes into that. And then we are working really closely with the Civil Aviation Safety Authority and governments to understand and build out what the air traffic control and regulations would need to be over the city. So safety is #1 priority. We have to get that right.
So just in terms of the aircraft themselves, I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, are they drones, and are they going to be manned, or are they going to be unmanned, and who owns them? Is it going to be similar to the Uber driver model, where the driver owns it, or is it going to be an Uber-owned fleet?
A big drone is how I think of them. They'll be able to seat about 5 people. To start with, there will be a pilot, but they will be built to be fully autonomous. In order for this to be something that is affordable, and the aim is that this is something which is available to mass population, not just ultra-rich being able to use this, we are working towards being fully autonomous, being battery operated and able to be recharged and used really frequently.
This might seem like a bit of a silly question, but at the heart of Uber Air, why do it?
Well, I think the cities of Melbourne and Sydney are a great reason for why. The population is just going to keep growing, and we're already facing congestion. And so when you think about how can we move people around more effectively, well, building roads, building trains, these are all very expensive infrastructure. Actually, if we go up, we can take some people off the roads and move them into the sky. But that's only part of what we need to do. We also need to get people out of their private cars and onto the public transport network and using shared rides or other sharing technology in order to mean that people can leave their car at home, or maybe just not have that second car and start using more shared transport options.
You sort of touched on this, but as far as Uber Air is concerned, how does it fit in with your existing suite of products? I mean, is it something that's going to compete with the likes of UberX and your other road-based products, or is it something that sits at the end as the ultra premium offering? Just explain how that works.
Our vision for Uber is to be a platform for all transportation needs. We want you to be able to open the app, have a look and say, I need to get from point A to point B. What is the right way for me to do that? So right now we have UberX. We also have Uber Pool, which is a shared rides product where you will get into the car, but you might be joined by 2 or 3 other people. It means that the cost of that is much lower, and it means that more people can get around with fewer cars. But also, at the lower end, thinking about e-bikes and e-scooters. We're beginning to see them in some Australian cities. We anticipate that they will be part of the Uber app as well as going all the way up to Uber Air. So we're moving towards a platform where we work with partners. It won't just all be Uber products, but other people that we work with through the app so that people can open it and figure out, how do I get from A to B while I'm leaving my car at home?
I have to say, I don't get jealous too often when it comes to other people's jobs, but I imagine coming into work every day and working on flying cars is a pretty cool thing to be doing.
I'm very lucky, and the team I get to work with are amazing too.
Susan Anderson, really, really appreciate you joining us today. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, James.
And now, more Swipe on Your Money.
Welcome back. Well, I've got a pretty simple question for you. What does the future look like? Maybe not quite so easy, but certainly it is an age-old question that everyone at some point has probably asked themselves. Well, imagine if you were trying to answer that question with the issue of millions of dollars of investment riding on it. Well, that's the reality for most businesses and governments, for that matter. To help provide some guidance on the future and what some of the key issues are going to be, EY is hosting the Future Realise conference in Sydney tonight. And for more on what EY is hoping to achieve, I spoke earlier to the EY Oceania CEO and Managing Director, Tony Johnson. Tony Johnson, really appreciate you joining us today. Big day for EY with the Future Realise conference happening tonight in Sydney on Cockatoo Island. Just explain what the conference is all about.
Really exciting event. I guess it's in the context of a disrupted, fast world, trust deficit. We wanted to bring together, we wanted to convene business leaders, thought leaders, community leaders together to think differently about focusing on these problems.
So a lot in that. I mean, how do you even go about doing that?
The way Cockatoo Island has come to life is amazing. It's a distinctive, different, exciting environment we've created. C2, associated with Cirque du Soleil, have done the fit out for us. Best allow those creative types create the environment rather than professional services firms, and they've done an amazing job.
We were talking a little bit earlier before the interview about some of the key pillar topics that underpin the conference. Just explain them if you can.
So 4 big challenges that we see that need to be addressed for us to move forward. And you're right, leadership, purpose, innovation, and trust and power. And if I just think about leadership for a moment, the real question we're posing is, are we willing to shape the debate or do we let it slide? When it comes to trust and power, we're asking, have we manipulated trust in order to gain power? When it comes to purpose, purpose is really asking, can purpose be used to drive inclusive and sustainable growth? And then innovation, we want to ask, is innovation more than a cliche?
Look, just on that last point, innovation. Over the past few years, it seems to have become a bit of a buzzword right across the public or, in fact, the private sector. What are you hoping to achieve at the conference and trying to flesh out what it means in the real world?
We've had some amazing presentations, but one I'll call out from Dr. Gemma Green from Power Ledger, and she describes it, innovation isn't creativity for creativity's sake. It's not about ping pong tables, it's not about beanbags, it's about a passion to solve a problem.
You mentioned private sector and public sector partnerships, such a crucial partnership. What do you make of the level of engagement at the moment and what that model is likely to look like into the future?
I see that it must change, and collaboration is the key that we're finding, connecting and collaborating. And then really that's the role we're playing. But it's not only about government, it's about the public sector, it's about the private sector. It's clearly around our academic institutions all playing a role to translate some of these great ideas into something that becomes real for us all.
In terms of relationships and in terms of collaboration, bringing all of these stakeholders together, how important are conferences like this, but also, I suppose, getting follow-up outcomes to what's discussed at the conference?
I see that as being the key, and we've been overwhelmed with the response that we're going to have to do Future Realised going forward again. But some of the ideas where organisations share a common problem. If I just share one with you, Qantas and Department of Defence need, want, must have more female pilots. It's the same problem for each one of them. Yesterday we saw Qantas representatives, defence representatives coming together to say, why wouldn't we work on this problem together? Now that's going to be fascinating to watch that as an example of how it unfolds.
Look, from your perspective at EY, to the stakeholders that you talk to, what are some of the key challenges, but also suppose some of the key opportunities arising out of this level of disruption, this rapid change in innovation and technology?
Yeah, I guess disruption is coming in a number of ways. We've done a poll, and clearly a competitor from nowhere that hasn't been seen is high up. But higher at the moment is the loss of consumer trust, customer trust. That was the number one item that came out. Number three was political instability, but clearly organisations can focus on the customer trust element of the equation, and also the future. Bob Geldof made an excellent point when he said, look, the future is uncertain. Too many people are afraid of it at the moment, must be embraced, and you've got to play your role to negotiate the future, to help shape the future. I think that was powerful for many of the participants that were in the room yesterday.
How much is that embraced and taken forward from a top-down approach? I mean, the idea of leadership, whether it be at a corporate level or a political level, is that where it needs to start?
It's interesting, we looked at the 7 key elements to innovation, and around the room there was unanimous view that leadership is the number one driver of an innovative organisation. There are many other factors that came into it, culture, etc., but leadership was number one. And that was the challenge and discussion, conversation, debate that we had yesterday, and the commitment that people made when they left the room to take back to their organisations, focused in many ways, but leadership was clearly number one.
And where do you see EY itself actually fitting in when, discussing with various stakeholders some of these challenges and opportunities? What's EY's role?
Yeah, we've got the benefit of working with private sector, public sector, big, small communities that exist. These challenges that we put out, we see as our responsibility to not only lean into them, but to stare them down. No one party is going to have the answer to it, so we see we're not going to have the answer to it clearly by ourselves. But collaborating, connecting and collaborating with other parties to bring it together, we think that's the way of doing it. Focus on the right things, collaborate and think differently. That will help us play a role. Our purpose is to build a better working world, and we see we've got a really important role and responsibility to play to connect and collaborate with people.
Tony Johnson, big day for you guys, so do appreciate you making time for us. Thanks very much.
Thanks, James.
We'll be back with more Swipe on Your Money. And now, more Swipe on Your Money.
Welcome back. From landing on Mars to flying taxis, it's been a sci-fi week at Swipe. And what better way to top it off than a look at the latest gadgets that every science fiction lover can get their hands on. For that, I spoke to the Tech Guide's Stephen Fennick for a look at some gadgets that you'll have to see to believe. Stephen Fennick, really appreciate you joining us today. Two things I love, gadgets and sci-fi movies. We're kind of putting the two together here.
They are blending here, absolutely, yeah. Well, let's start off. This is the Epson Moverio BT35E. These are smart glasses. So think Minority Report.
Yes.
Do you remember that film?
Great movie,
and
Tommy Cruise.
all this digital information appearing in your eye line. So this is exactly what this can provide. So you can use this in various scenarios. I've actually flown that drone, which we'll talk about in a moment. I've flown that drone with these glasses. So drones are a line of sight. So what I can do with these glasses is see all the information that the drone is providing and also keep an eye on the drone at the same time rather than looking down at a controller. Right. So really handy to have that digital layer. But there are so many industry applications for this where you may be working on some kind of project and you might be working remotely and you can have all the instructions put in front of you digitally with this product. So it's got all the connections, HDMI, USB-C, so a really handy way to extend what you can normally see on a monitor, but take it out into the real world.
Are they comfortable? Because I've got to be honest with you, they're not the most aesthetically pleasing glasses.
Does that mean you want me to put them on, or
give it a go?
They are comfy. Yeah, look, they've got they rest pretty easily there. There's also a camera on board as well, so you can provide feedback also. And they've got a little mini OLED screen inside, so you can sort of of Terminator style see all the information that's coming in over the top of reality.
Are we going to be walking around in years to come with these things on, do you think? Just
There's
sort of augmented reality happening around us?
A certain definite possibility. I think information is what we're all after, and this can provide it instantly. So rather than having to look down at a device and see, OK, who is this person I'm meeting whose name I can't remember, this can give you that information right away.
Quick one, Epson, how much do they want for it?
They're $1,200. Yeah.
The next one, robot. Little mini robots.
This is the Anki Vector. Let's turn him on, and there's no predicting what he's going to do, this little guy, but he's basically a little mini companion. He's a smart device as well. So I reckon he's a combination of a smart speaker and a virtual pet, because he can provide information, he can walk around, he can give you, he recognise you as well. Like there have been times where he's been just wandering around on my desk, he looks up and says, Stephen, he recognises me.
That's adorable.
So it is, it's great. And he's got sensors where you can actually give him some physical interaction. He can return to his charging dock and recharge. So I think this sort of the AI, the robotics, all combining into one product here, and a child would love this. It's $449. So
a lucky child.
You'd have to be on Santa's good list to be receiving that this Christmas.
Who makes it?
It's Anki, is the cover, A-N-K-I, and the product is called, his name's Vector.
Vector.
And this is a little cube, a little smart cube that he can interact with, roll around, solve puzzles and things like that as well. I think he's run out of charge, the poor little guy, but I think you get the picture.
Speaking about little robots, I know you were at CES earlier this year. I mean, there are more of these things coming, right?
Absolutely,
I mean, the idea of your own little personal robot, little robot, it's a thing from the Jetsons, but it's got to be a reality.
It is, yeah, you're right. I think it's sort of combining that, the AI, which is sort of everywhere, machine learning, sort of getting to know what our habits are during the day, what time we leave for work, what time we have breakfast. So all these little things are, they're being put together in a single device like a robot, but also our appliances are getting that kind of information as well.
Very cool. Now, the last one we've got, you've mentioned it, the drone.
This is the Mavic 2 Pro, brand new product. It's got a new Hasselblad 4K camera, and Anki's decided to wake up.
Anki likes it.
Yeah, he does. He approves. But this is the sort of the latest, like state-of-the-art foldable drone. That thing folds down to the size of a water bottle. What? So you can take that away on holiday. It is a pretty cool device. The quality you get, video, images, is movie quality. So you're getting just 4K, brilliant quality. There's even new features where you can do time lapses even in midair, and it's got amazing stability as well. There's a 3-axis gimbal that even in the windiest of conditions you get this smooth video, and is an essential tool now for photographers and filmmakers as well.
And it's fair to say DJI the leaders
Absolutely,
in the drone space?
I call them the Apple of the drone world. Yeah. They are really at the forefront with all their great products, and this is just one of many drones that they've got. But this is one of the latest, and also one of the handiest to own, because, as I said, it does fold down in a small package. And Anki also approves about that as well.
How much is this guy going to set you back on the Christmas?
That's $2,500. So nice. That's an investment. I think that's a photography tool that is indispensable if you are serious about your photography and that you want to take some professional-looking shots. That can deliver that.
And we just got to give a final thought to Anki, who's still in the show here at the moment.
He is. Hopefully he'll recognise me, but maybe the lights might have thrown him off.
All right, we got to go. Stephen, appreciate it as always. Anki,
my pleasure.
Lovely to meet you, buddy.
See you later, Anki.
That is Swipe for this week. Don't forget you can catch up on the show anytime online at yourmoney.com.au. We also have a podcast now. I'm James Daggar-Nickson. Good night.
This program brought to you by ACS. Think ahead, create the future, change the world.